On the agenda is a Zoom discussion. Councilor Stone, you requested that this be put on.
I did. I'd like to start by making a motion that effective at the conclusion of this meeting, we end the Zoom platform. Second.
Okay, so
Wait a
that
minute. Effective at the end of this meeting.
Yeah, at conclusion of tonight's meeting, that we end the use of Zoom platform for council meetings.
just clarification, is that for both members of the governing body and the public?
Correct.
Or, okay.
Both public and members of the governing body.
And we can have, so the motion's been made, there's been a second, well, I'm sure I'll have plenty of discussion. So
Who was the second, please?
second was Councilor Gerard.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councilor Kowalski, then Councilor Mata.
I just want to confirm that it can still be streamed to Facebook during CCTV broadcast absent the Zoom platform.
We'll have to work on that, but I believe it can. If not, we'll buy the equipment to make it happen as soon as possible.
And
We
then,
could still, yes, because we could still use the Zoom platform to do it until we get the proper equipment.
so I would ask for an amendment to include the platform can be used if we have consultants or out-of-town guests who need to use that, and it's a cost-saving measure to the city.
I would accept that amendment.
Okay.
That was my concern as well.
You make the amendment that we can
We
use
can
Zoom.
Use the Zoom platform if it's an out-of-town vendor presenter, which it would be a cost savings to the city.
Is that the only exception?
Yes,
And Councilor Stone, you accept that
I
amendment?
accept that amendment.
Okay,
And Councilor Gerard, did you
Yes.
accept it?
Yes.
Councilor Matto, and then Councilor Contois.
Councilor Kowalski addressed my concern. I would just want to make sure that we have that ability, like tonight, for a consultant to come in rather than paying them to drive here. Sometimes we have consult with legal attorneys, and again, we would save a lot of money being able to Zoom them in, but that would be the only exception I think we should make. Now, is this is a Zoom platform, but
Zoom
What-
platform at this point.
is this requiring people to be here in person or?
That's some different discussion.
Okay, so, all right, we'll cover that later. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Contois.
So I would ask, for what purpose would we end the Zoom? I mean, this has got to be aimed directly at me. Councilor Stone has been adamant about this, coming into chambers, not wearing masks, doing all of the things against the CDC recommendation. And then I gave a legal opinion a month or two ago, and the legal opinion still says the same thing. It says you may do it, okay? Now you're making an exception. And I don't believe you can make an exception. You either have it or you don't. And then if you don't have it, what happens to me? I'm duly elected by the people of Ward 2. The CDC recommendation says wear masks. I'm looking at that
I
council
don't
right
need a
now.
CDC recommendation. I have a point of order.
What's your point
I
of
don't
order?
want to
Wait
be
a minute.
interrupted
Wait,
when I'm
wait.
talking. I don't want to be interrupted while I'm talking.
Wait a minute, when somebody says a point of order is an interruption, so what is your issue?
We don't need a lecture on the CDC or Mr. Contois' opinion on what we're doing. If he has a relative conversation to what we're discussing about coming to council and not using Zoom, that's fine. But I don't need a medical history of Mr. Contois or his feelings from the CDC.
Well, we're gonna have this discussion. You wanted to have the discussion. I think everybody knew that there would be some strong feelings about it. As long as everybody's respectful. The issue here is really the bottom line is what is to be gained or what is to be lost by removing the platform. Take the personalities out of it. I'd like to read a couple of things that I researched for this. I think the council should be aware of some things before. Yes, Councilor.
Unless you rule that he's out of order, I think Contois still has the floor and should be able to finish.
You're correct. Councilor Contois, if you would like to finish what you were going to say, then I have some things to read with regard to what guidance has been issued by NHMA and then what is happening in the legislature with regard to this.
So Councilor Stone interrupted me with a point of order because he was concerned that I was using personal opinion. The CDC recommendations are not personal opinion. They are based upon science. They say, wear a mask inside and outside, even if you're vaccinated. They say social distance. They say get a vaccination. I have people in my family that I must protect, and I cannot afford a breakthrough infection. Vaccinations are only 90% effective. I could get a breakthrough infection and take it to minor children. And I see no reason other than spite to eliminate me, a duly elected official from Ward 2. There's no reason at all other than the fact that Ms. Councilor Stone has an agenda.
Okay, Councilor Contois, I have asked that all people participating in this discussion not make it personal. The group question here is, what is to be gained by having the Zoom platform for both the governing body and the public, and what is to be lost?
And then what happens to me?
Let's get from point A to point B first. A decision has not been made. We're having a discussion. Now, the NHMA guidance that I pulled, that was posted June 11, 2021, that was right after the governor lifted emergency order number 12. So what Councilor Stone has requested is well within the guidelines as far as, and I'll read this because I don't want to misspeak. If no emergency exists, but one or more members of the body, but less than a quorum, wish to participate remotely, RSA 91-A:2, Roman numeral 3, states that public body may, which is what Councilor Contois referred to, allow such remote participation if in-person attendance is not reasonably practical. So, the body may, in addition to allowing for in-person attendance, broadcast the meeting via cable access television or an online format such as Zoom or Teams, or allow members of the public to call in and listen to the meeting. So what's coming down the pike, this is the current guidance, but at the end of the legislative session, HB 108 was signed into law by the governor. And what that did was to set up a study committee to look into remote meetings. The committee is supposed to file their report by November 1st. They have done that. They have several findings and recommendations, but why I'm bringing this up is if this report is accepted and incorporated eventually into law, there's going to be a lot of changes with regard to how we do things, because the first paragraph of their report is, with the backdrop of the recent experiences holding remote meetings during the pandemic and the dramatic increase in public participation at those meetings, the public and many public bodies strongly favor them. Knowing that, they went through their work, the committee went through its work. They're talking about, you're not even having to have a physical quorum of the public body to do things remotely. You could have just 2 people of the public body and have the rest remote in. So I think as we're thinking about this, take the personalities out and think about how do we create opportunity for the best public participation. And if we keep Zoom platform or we take it away, what are we losing and what are we gaining? Those are the questions that we really have to think about. And if you want a copy of this report, I can either send the link to you, or you can pull it down. But it is available. And it's something that we should be considering in the future, because it's going to, technology has changed how we're going to do things. And we're going to have to think about, when I first got on the council, nobody even called in. That wasn't even a possibility. I didn't understand why that was that way then. People do travel. They live in other parts of the world at different points in time. If they can call in, there's a way to do it. That hadn't been done, but it was available. And everybody's had the opportunity to leverage that. So I think we have to think about what the true purpose is. If we want great participation, and if we have any member of the governing body not participating in person, what are we losing? Councilor Matta.
Thank you for that information. I understand that what they're proposing hasn't happened yet. So I want to focus on what the law is now. And RSA 91A says a public body may, but it's not required to allow one or more members of the body to participate in a meeting by electronic means. So that's clear that this body of 9 people that sit up here can make that decision, which is what I think we're going to do tonight. And while I completely understand Councillor Contois's issues, I have personal issues myself. My daughter doesn't want me to be here either. I have, underlying conditions. So as a body, and after watching what happened last night, it's very difficult, in my opinion, for us to effectively do our job when we've got people calling in on the phone and not showing up. I think we're much more effective as a group when we all can sit here face to face. And while, again, I appreciate the fact that that some people feel that it's too dangerous, then maybe they shouldn't be on a public body. I do understand there's another side of the coin about public participation, but I've sat on this council for 2 years and watched for many more years, and there's very few people that participate, and most of them prefer to come in person. And when we were on Zoom,
I think I want to call a point of
excuse
order
me,
here.
I have the floor.
I want to call a point of order here.
Now you're interrupting her. Do you want to let her finish and then you want to speak, or what's the point of order?
I don't think that you allowed me the benefit of not being interrupted.
So you're going to interrupt me because you were interrupted?
Okay.
It's not a point of order.
It's not a point of order. She wasn't making a disparaging remark to you. So let her
No,
finish.
she did. She did.
Let her finish and then you can speak.
So again, I don't feel that we would be losing much from public perspective for not offering Zoom to the public. But I believe that this body would function. We all sit here and our meetings get extended. Here's one of the downsides. Our meetings get extended 10% of the extra time every meeting because we have to do roll call votes because one person wants to participate via Zoom. That at the end of the year, we're doing maybe another meeting or two just by that extra 10%. That's time taken. We're all volunteers up here. So that's time taken away from my family because I can't be home. I think that we would be better off. We were all sitting around the table. We were all voting together. So we don't have to worry about the technical issues we have half the time. It wastes a lot of time. I think it's more efficient. And as a body, I really think we should get back to in person.
Councillor Contois, then Councillor Kolaski.
So first of all, I don't appreciate not being allowed to call a point of order. She said that perhaps I shouldn't serve. That is a point of order. She said perhaps I shouldn't serve on a public body. She doesn't make those rules. Number two, roll call votes. She says it takes a lot of time. She claimed that early on, as did someone else on the council, and I don't remember who. I've taken and reviewed the tapes Each roll call vote takes approximately 10 to 15 seconds. If every vote we took have 10 to 15 seconds, it sure does not equal to what she just said about us adding another meeting or two a year. That's total false information. The other is, this is just her opinion. All right. You have just told us about information that may change things. As a minimum, this vote ought to be held until the information that you just read to us from the committee be put in place. And the fourth thing is, we're having an election Tuesday. And if the people of Ward 2 decide that I'll be their representative and you don't allow me to participate, you will be denying the largest ward in the city's people to not have a voice.
Counselor Kowalski.
During that last statement, I was about to holler out point of order, because again, that's an opinion. That's not a decision of this board to deny any voters or any ward access, because as I've sat here for 12 years, there has been the ability to use that same telephone that's sitting right there in front of you, Madam Mayor. I've used it several times, and I remember several meetings where people would call in. So I'm not focused on potential changes. I'm keeping personalities and individuals out of this. For me, my decision is based on not only the roll call votes that have to happen, it's the technical difficulties. And that's the most important thing to me. And it's not just this board. We may not control access to other groups or individuals, but I sat here during the planning board meeting where the same thing, technical difficulties. The meeting time is extended while we're waiting to get caught up. It happened again this evening. And there have been several meetings where I can't even hear Councilor Contois. And there's several where we don't stop the meeting to say, I'm sorry, can you speak up, sir? But the amount of times you have to say simple phrases like you're on mute, there are distractions to the meeting. I can understand his concern, but there are other options available to him or any counselor that chooses not to be in this room. So there are accommodating situations that can happen even if somebody chose to join us in this room, but you can always call in. That is not denying or will ever anyone be denied access to this room.
Just to clarify, I want everybody and the public to understand that if somebody does call in, we also have to do roll call.
I understand.
Whenever, and I know you do, I'm just making it clear that the roll call issue, the time of roll call is going to be an issue anytime anybody calls in. So, and I would rather have people participate than not participate. So doing a roll call is what we have to do. But Counselor Stone?
Motion to move the question.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Counselor Stone and then seconded by Counselor DeMars.
Counselor Hearn,
Yes.
Counselor Gerard,
Yes.
Counselor DeMars,
Yes.
Sister Mayor Dameron,
No.
Counselor Mattow,
Yes.
Counselor Kowalski,
Yes.
Counselor Contois,
No.
Counselor Stone,
Yes.
Mayor Lovett.
Yes. So that was to move the question. Now we have the vote.
Counselor, okay, so the motion is, just to make sure everybody is clear. Hang on, I gotta find it. Is to, effective at the end of this meeting, we end the use of Zoom platform for council meetings for both governing body and the public. And it was amended that we can use the Zoom platform for out-of-town presenters, which would be cost savings to the city. And that was accepted by Counselor Stone and Counselor Gerard. Counselor Hearn,
Yes.
Counselor Gerard,
Yes.
Counselor DeMars.
Yes.
Sister Mayor Dameron,
No.
Counselor Mattow,
Yes.
Counselor Kowalski,
Yes.
Counselor Contois,
No.
Counselor Stone,
Yes.
Mayor Lovett.
No. And the last item on this agenda is discussion about transfer station ad hoc committee members being appointed by the council. Counselor Kowalski.